Hello, mate. What's going on, friends? And welcome on back to Football Therapy with me, your host, Jan. As always, I do hope you're doing well, mate. I really do hope that. And I suppose Chelsea news, a continued analysis of, the fallout. What happens next? Liam Rosenior, his first game as Chelsea manager, winning 5-1 away at Charlton. Some stuff the same, some stuff a little bit different. Of course, Uriel Hato playing in an advanced role, scoring a beauty. Other players getting on the score sheet. All round, a good day, even for Philip Jorgensen in goal, who conceded a goal, but it was after a save. It was a follow-up shot. A good start for Liam. His demeanour was good on the touchline. He said the right things. Of course, he's dealing with a massively difficult situation. The Chelsea fan base very, very upset. Certainly losing faith in the ownership, the sporting structure. And of course, he represents their guy. He's the Blue Co boy, isn't he? So it's a very tough position to be in, but it's a good start. Of course, we play Arsenal very, very soon in the semi-final of the EFL Cup. So he's got a big, win that, mate. Woo! I'll tell you, you'll be doing yourself a big favour there, mate. I'm rooting for him. I've been very sort of consistent in these last few pieces of content. I really like him. I like how he speaks. I like how he's charismatic. He commands a room. He's confident. He's seemingly tactically promising, not too radically different. I know the idea is you drop him in and it's not too much different for these players. I do wonder if certain players like Santos, like the aforementioned Uriel Hato, and indeed maybe even Cole Palmer will benefit from his arrival. We will see. I'm going to talk about the article on The Athletic by Keris Jones, a little bit more analysis on the game. We can speak about what he said about, he's spoken about Maresca quite a lot, how this team, he's called them they and then said not they, we. Won the Club World Cup. He's been very consistent and firm on how Maresca's done an excellent job, how tactically he was really good. But he says, tactics are great, they're important, but they're not everything. And I tend to agree. I think he realizes there's a lot of work to do away from the tactics, getting the players to run, to all buy in, to believe, to fight for each other, to develop them mentally and emotionally as a young team. Clearly, that was a huge flaw. Excuse me, still sick, of course. Clearly, that was a huge flaw of this Chelsea team, whether it's ill discipline, yellow and red cards, whether it's heads dropping in adversity in tough moments and, starting games really well, but flopping in the second half because they're a young, immature side and they don't know how to react to adversity. The emotional side to it, which I'm personally feeling right now that Liam Rosenior will be better equipped to navigate than Maresca. I'm not for a second going to try and say he's a better tactician, coach, manager than Enzo, but I think he'll have elements to his game that will be really beneficial to these young chaps. And he is, by all accounts, an up-and-coming, promising coach that plays a lot of similar stuff to Maresca. I like how he keeps reiterating they're really well coached and will continue doing the tactics. I think he said this in his post-match press conference. We'll continue developing the tactics and, hammering that in. But he says there's a lot of work to do with other stuff, which I think's right. Nagelsmann said a similar thing to, Liam Rosenior said 90% mad management, 10% coaching. I think Nagelsmann said 70% like social, emotional stuff. So young, up-and-coming good coaches are all realizing you've got to be socially and emotionally intelligent to drive these young lads. Do you know what I mean? So we'll get into it. By the way, welcome back to Football Therapy. Thank you for joining me. If you want to support the content, it is super simple. You just like this video, just drop a little like. Subscribe if you're yet to do so. Hit the bell if you choose to. And of course, do search me up on Spotify, Football Therapy Podcast, to receive and indeed watch this content on Spotify. And you can follow and 5-star if you want to be nice. Thank you. Lovely bit of admin out the way there. Housework done. Yes, it is a good start. We'll read this piece from Keris Jones. We'll speak about Liam moving forwards. And will he heal the rift? I think almost you've got to separate supporting the team and indeed the manager sportingly, and then having your own opinion on the hierarchy, the ownership, the structure at large. And I said yesterday in my match review, the Chelsea away fans did an excellent job of voicing how they feel while not toxifying the performance for the players. That's how I felt watching the broadcast, at least. But Keris Jones, writes the following. Liam Rosenior began his reign as Chelsea head coach with a comfortable FA Cup third-round victory at Championship side Charlton Athletic. The 41-year-old was appointed on Tuesday, but did not take charge, of course, of the Fulham game. We lost that. Cucurella red card. Meaning this trip to the Valley offered a potential for the first glimpse of what the Chelsea side might look like underneath him. In reality, Rosenior is selected a side featuring plenty of players in need of first-team minutes, of course. And the starting 11 against the semi-final against Arsenal is likely to be significantly different. Rosenior watched from the touchline as his team were frustrated by the host during the first half, but Hato's powerful strike gave them the first lead in stoppage time. Yeah, I think Hato's really going to benefit, genuinely, from... I think probably the sporting directors will be happy about that because he cost best part of 40 million quid. He's a young lad, but he's highly rated. It wasn't just Chelsea that wanted him. And of course, my opinion is we've overcooked Cucurella. We've over-Cucurellaed him. There's a joke in there somewhere. And therefore his form has dropped off because of it. We need to trust Hato and we need to coach him well enough so he can play well, which I believe he did, aside from the goal. Yeah, we need him to be able to do that. Tosin, of course, got a header, doubled our lead. There was a brief cause for concern when Lee Burn, previously Chelsea, of course, got a goal back after a good save from Jorgensen in 57 minutes. But Chelsea soon settled the nerves. Gue poked one home. I love that goal. Sniffer's goal, Poacher's goal in the box. And unlike Buonanotte, who forced the save from a poor shot, he properly finished it to where the goalkeeper couldn't save it. I've got such a sore throat and I'm dying. Pedro Neto added... Yeah, Pedro's goal was good as well. You know, weaker foot near post finish on the deck. Lovely stuff, you have to say. Fernandez, of course, got the penalty that Stevao won. Beautiful scenes. So, how did the Chelsea fans react to Liam Rosenior? Well, let's see from what's written here on The Athletic. Not me saying this. Rosenior has said all the right things in his media appearances since joining Chelsea, but made it clear he knows full well the fans' approval will be won on the pitch. Yeah, that's one of his most favoured quotes coming out, saying, look, don't listen to me in here, although everyone's listening to him in there, like the press conference. He says, look, judge me on the pitch, don't judge me on the press conferences. I mean, he's done very ruddy well with press conferences. You couldn't have done better. Genuinely couldn't have done better. I know some people are skeptical seeing him as Blue Coat's man, and I totally understand. And some people think it's, that first press conference, a lot of people criticised it as a script. I think people who don't want him to succeed, maybe. But what I would say to those people criticising him is, yes, judge him on the pitch. Because it wasn't a script. He's always talked well. Listen to how he spoke at Strasbourg. Listen to him, his features on The Athletic, that he did on the podcast. He's very impressive. That wasn't a one-off planned speech. I mean, it may have been things he planned in his head, but this will be a recurring theme with Liam. He's a smart, gregarious man, and he's methodical and he's mindful. This will be a recurring theme, But like he says, judge him on results, of course, like you have to with every manager, certainly Chelsea managers. So he said all the right things, starting with the 3,317 Chelsea supporters in the away stand on Saturday. There were no huge shocks for Chelsea fans from their new head coach. Rosenior's system, as expected, was fairly similar to Maresca's, and he's also an animated manager on the touchline, often accompanied by a member of his coaching staff. He was vocal towards his players, frequently urging the wingers higher and wider. Yeah, like he's not... I think the biggest win for everyone concerned, whether you're a believer in Liam Rosenior or you're a massive skeptic, I think everyone will learn very quickly he's not Graham Potter in terms of being this very vanilla, passive, guy. And I mean that with how can you say that with the greatest of respect, vanilla and passive? But, he's a great man, Potter. He's a great person and he's a good coach. But he's not. He's just absolutely doesn't have what it takes to be Chelsea. But maybe Liam has. So just give him a chance is what I would say. The priority among the fans was apparently not welcoming their new manager. Well, yeah, that's a bit unfair. I thought the fans were quite good. After ferocious anti-ownership chanting at Craven Cottage on Wednesday, it took less than 1 minute for chants of Roman Abramovich to start the Valley. And of course, Badalik Bali got his several songs sang at him. There's clearly disquiet in the fan base, and it was perhaps a missed opportunity that Chelsea players celebrated their goals in such muted fashion. I think this is a bit unfair from Keris Jones because the Chelsea players did celebrate. You know, you look at and Enzo Fernandez isn't going to go wild after scoring the 5th goal against the championship side when you've won. And, you know, I think that's a bit unfair. And I think the Chelsea fans supported the players. They were singing all the players' names. So, I know she was obviously at the Valley. I wasn't. But that sounds a bit unfair to me. I think the... Real talk. I was going to talk about this for a second. As always, when there's disharmony and disquiet, there is conflict in a fan base. I think, as a whole, and I think it would be really unfair for people to suggest otherwise, I think the Chelsea fans have been very patient. Very patient. Chelsea have been used to success, a completely different model under Abramovich. Now, I'm a bit different to some people. I understand how that's gone. And I expect Chelsea to remain in its identity, which is winning trophies and being good and being high profile and being an alluring destination for players, all those things. I don't think that shouldn't go away because that's genuinely who we are now, and that's why we cost X amount of money for this consortium to buy us. But Roman ran the club in a certain way as a man in his position would do in that current landscape of Premier League football, all of which is gone. So I don't expect that to come back. What I do expect is demand, standards, essentially. But I think Chelsea fans have been very patient for years since the sanctions, and they supported the team. We've gone through some tricky times, and they've cultivated their own opinion now. It's not just singing Roman Abramovich. They've found their public enemy number one in Badal Iqbali. And to be honest, I've got no love for him. But my concern is, I have great concerns about ownership in football generally. And I always think it could be worse, basically. I think there could be a proper asset stripping. There could be a no investment. There could be no structure. I know people hate the structure, but actually I find a little bit of future-proofing in safety and structure, especially in modern football. There might be teams that just don't, so owners that don't do that. I'm really big on the geopolitical element side. I don't want my club to be a vessel for sports washing. I love Chelsea too much for that and think it's too important to me. So I always am concerned. I wouldn't cry for Blucher if they left today. I'd just be concerned for what happens next. But amid all that, I support the team, which I think is a really good team. It could be great. And I am supporting the character and the promise of Liam Rosenior until I can't, basically. And I always like to try and, back the manager. It's a good thing to do. But I'm not suggesting, and I don't think there's any suggestion that the Chelsea support, the match-going support, is not going to back Maresca. They'll back the team. They see the team win. They'll back, Rosenior. If the team's winning, they will back the players and manager. That's how I feel. That's what I think is going to happen. Especially because they've demonstrated they can navigate turbulent times at Chelsea. Sing all you want about this, that, and the other. Just if you can support the players, which they have been doing, I think that's the main thing. Right, let's read on. Right, was this a sign of things to come for the Fringe players? She goes to speak about Hato, the 19-year-old defender, of course, signed from Ajax for best part of 40 million quid, by the way, guys. Capped his best performance in a Chelsea shirt with a superb goal. He's been tasked with a role similar to the suspended Marc Cucurella, pushing up from left back and helping attack in the box. Something that we never saw Maresca trust him doing, playing in that left pocket when Chelsea were in possession. He seemed low on confidence for the earlier part of his Chelsea career, but was much improved on Saturday, and it would be a major positive for Rosenior to call for Rosenior. I've got to try and nail his name. To call him a reliable deputy for Cucurella. I mean, that's what we've all wanted, Gittins was good. Garnacho's been catching loads of heat from Chelsea fans. He calls him Ali. Maresca called him Garner. He's calling him Ali. So, there you go. Giving him a different nickname. Maybe trying to revitalise his form. I think Garnacho catches a lot of heat. I think he does a lot right, but, he's not quite there. He's 21, bro. In a new team after the controversy of Man United. It's tough, He is technically gifted, able to progress the ball quickly to the byline and nip a cross in, and indeed created one of Chelsea's chances in doing so, Garnacho. At the start of the second half, neat footwork and allowed him to play in Buonanotte for, the work you capitalised and finished. So, yeah, we know what happened in the game. What's on Rosenior's to-do list next? Ooh. Well, a comfortable win was important, but this pales in comparison to the test, of course, Arsenal visiting Stamford Bridge midweek. If he gets a win there with good support, and then we take a good lead for the second leg at the Emirates, because that's going to be tough. It's so annoying that they've got the second leg at home. It's always beneficial. It would be a pressurised fixture away, but considering Chelsea matched and at times outplayed Arsenal in the 1-1 draw when we went down to 10 men, it could feel like an opportunity and also a backward step should we lose. For Rosenior writes Keris Jones here. The team will look very different for that game. The like of James, Palmer would be returning. Rosenior said they were precautionary. Gusto, Palmer, James. Defensive details also need attention. Of course, the manner of the goal we conceded, but look, the whole defence will be different. We'll still have Caicedo in there, but, Rosenior does not need to reinvent the wheel between now and Wednesday. What's most important is instilling confidence in the squad. Yeah, it's going to be like fighting for each other, running, believing, and, good substitutions. I think people were happy with substitutions yesterday. And that was one of the biggest criticisms for Enzo Maresca, is he set up really well, but he refused to affect the game with substitutions. I think that will be a pleasant change with the new gaffer. Speaking to TNT Sports, Liam said, it's a good start. Our first goal came in a really important moment. And then we scored a really good goal from a set play. What pleased me so much was the intensity from the team and how we pressed hard. A strong start, something to build on. I was delighted with the starting players, but it's nothing to get too carried away about. It's been 2 months ahead, and it's been a busy 2 months, or it's a busy 2 months ahead, excuse me. And what I can take away is that I'm really pleased that the lads have put into practice what we've worked on in the past 48 hours. Yeah, I think we're going to see a lot more high pressing. I've said this before when I did, spoke about what we expect to see. High pressing, a little bit more bait and transition with Rosenior, then perhaps Maresca will see a little bit more. You'll see a bit more of that. And yeah, just maybe, like you say, but instilling belief in some other players again and finding form from the likes of Hato and some of these lads that we really do need to see find some form. And I wanted to end and speak a little bit about, I think Reece James will get on really well with him. I think and that will be important. I think the bond between captain and manager. He needs to win over Enzo Fernandez, because Fernandez, despite him arguing with his namesake, Enzo Maresca, all the time on the touchline, I think they had a good relationship. I did him and Cucurella. I think they were his two, maybe because Spanish speaking, I don't know. But he seemed to have good relationships with them. He'll need to win over Enzo Fernandez. He has been waxing lyrical about him. I have a feeling, hopefully he will over time. He is just a good manager. But a big one is Palmer. He needs to get Palmer cooking again. Since Cole Palmer joined Chelsea in that Pochettino season, which obviously the Pochettino football served him really well, but probably didn't serve Chelsea as a whole. The sort of suicide transitional, concede loads of goals, poch ball. It served Palmer as an individual, but maybe not us as a whole. But even though he still had an amazing time under Maresca at times, Palmer, including obviously the Club World Cup final and the Conference League final as well, and indeed sometimes in the league. Did he score 4 goals in one half under Maresca? I think he might have done. I don't know. Possibly. Yes. Anyway, getting Cole Palmer cooking again, regardless of, the perception of Chelsea, they're Cole Palmer FC. Palmer's been out and they're actually playing well. They're playing better without him. No, they're Cole Palmer FC. The truth is, like Maresca always said, he's our best player. We need him. When Cole's fit, when Cole's playing well, we are simply better. And that remains the case. He looks out of confidence. For me, the last few weeks, dare I say months, Cole Palmer, he's looked off the boil. And it looks like a confidence thing. It looks like a mental thing. I know Chelsea's medical team, who apparently intervene quite a lot, are trying to really be careful with him, which, by the way, I've got no issue with. Be careful with James, Fofana, Palmer. Make sure, try and revitalise Lavia. I've got no issue with you doing the right thing and holding players back. Telling managers when they're fit to play or not. If they get paid and they're specialists to do that, then fine. Palmer needs a manager to rebuild his confidence and make him great again. And maybe Liam can do that. I mean, Liam's a good man manager. Will Palmer look at him and go, you're the guy to do it? Maybe. I mean, Palmer played under the best, arguably the most influential and maybe the best manager of all time in Guardiola, and he didn't have a good time and didn't get used. Pochettino was a good man manager. He played well. Maresca, had no experience except for one season in the Championship. He had moments underneath him. So it's not like he needs an Ancelotti or a Guardiola to command his respect, so he listens to them. I'm a really good player. I'm only going to listen to footballers that were really good players, like, Ronaldo at Real Madrid listening to Zidane. It's not that with Palmer, I don't think. I don't think Palmer's got that kind of demanding ego. I think he just needs the right person to get inside his head and get him expressing himself again. And I'm hoping Liam can do that, because that's a big task. Right, I still feel super rough, so I'm going to wind down the video here, but do let me know your thoughts in the comment section. Thank you as always for joining me on YouTube, for liking and subscribing. If you do want to support me, go over to Spotify, search Football Therapy Podcast, give me a follow, and why not give me a 5-star rating, because apparently it does help. Alright gang, thank you again, take care, up the chills, peace.